The room is quiet now, except for a distant hum outside the window. A streetlight rests softly on the wall, like a pale moon that forgot to move. Perhaps you are lying down, or sitting with your eyes half closed. Your body is finally still, but your mind keeps walking in circles. Thoughts come and go like late trains, arriving without warning, leaving without goodbye. Plans, memories, unfinished conversations. They all speak at once, asking for attention. You have carried much through this day. Work, responsibility, expectation, quiet worry. Even when nothing is wrong, the weight can still feel heavy. It is understandable to feel this way. The mind was never meant to work endlessly. An old Buddhist teaching gently reminds us, even a strong bow must sometimes be unstrung. Tonight, there is nothing you need to solve, nothing you must fix or improve. This moment is already enough, just as it is, just as you are. Imagine a small pond at dusk. The water was stirred all day by wind. When evening comes, the air softens, and the surface slowly learns to rest. The Buddha once spoke of this kind of settling. When grasping loosens, the mind becomes clear, not forced, not controlled, just allowed to return home. You do not need to push thoughts away. Let them drift like leaves on water. They pass when they are not followed, as clouds pass through an open sky. In the Satipatthana teaching, awareness is gentle, simply knowing what is here, without judgment, breathing in, knowing you breathe in, breathing out, knowing you let go. As you listen, you may notice your shoulders soften, your jaw may loosen without effort. The body remembers how to rest when given permission and time. These stories are not here to teach you. They are here to sit beside you, like an old friend by a quiet fire, speaking only when words are needed. Over the hours ahead, wisdom will appear softly through simple stories, images, and reflections. Nothing to memorize or analyze, only something to feel and slowly absorb. The Dhammapada whispers a simple truth. Peace follows a gentle mind. Not tomorrow, not someday, but right here. In this quiet listening, you may sleep quickly or slowly. Both are perfectly fine. Even resting while awake is healing. There is no wrong way to listen. Let this be 3 hours without striving. No goals, no expectations, no effort, just sound, breath, and rest, moving together like a calm tide. If you'd like, feel free to share where you're listening from tonight. Story 1. The lamp left on at the office. The building was quiet. Long after most lights had gone dark, only one office still glowed softly, like a small moon trapped behind glass. A man sat alone at his desk, papers stacked but untouched for hours. He was not working anymore, only staring, thinking, circling the same thoughts. Deadlines echoed in his chest, conversations replayed without mercy. He wondered if he had done enough, or too much, or the wrong things entirely. Outside, the city breathed slowly. Inside, his mind refused to rest. So he stood, turned off the lamp, and noticed how gentle the darkness felt. Walking home, his steps slowed. Each breath became heavier, warmer. He remembered a teaching he once heard about laying down burdens before nightfall. The Buddha spoke of effort with wisdom, work when work is needed, rest when rest is due. Mixing the two brings only suffering. At home, he placed his keys down carefully. He washed his hands like a small ritual. The day loosened its grip, finger by finger, breath by breath. Lying in bed, he did nothing at all. Thoughts came, but he did not follow, like files left safely for morning. They waited without complaint. In the quiet, he smiled faintly. Not everything needs resolution tonight. Some things rest better in darkness. Trusted to the light of another day, and as sleep arrived, a gentle knowing settled beside him. You are allowed to turn the lamp off and still be worthy of rest. Story 2. The cup that could not be filled. Morning light touched the kitchen counter. A woman stood holding her coffee mug, already tired before the day began. Her mind was full, overflowing, noisy. News, plans, worries, expectations. Every sip tasted thin and sharp. She wondered why nothing satisfied her anymore. Even small comforts she once enjoyed. She remembered an old Zen story of a visitor with a full cup. No tea could be added until something was poured out first. So she paused. She set the mug down gently. She took one slow breath, then another, softer than the first. The mind, like the cup, was already brimming. No peace could enter until space was made. Throughout the day, she practiced emptying, not quitting her duties, but loosening her grip on outcomes, doing what was needed, then releasing it. In the evening, she returned home quieter. The same mug waited on the counter. This time, she noticed its warmth, the steam rising without hurry. She drank slowly, without distraction. The taste felt deeper, kinder, not because life had changed, but because she had made room. As night arrived, her thoughts softened. The teaching from long ago whispered again. Emptiness is not lacking. It is what allows fullness to arrive. Sleep came gently, like warm tea. Nothing more was needed. Story 3. The long commute. Traffic stretched endlessly ahead. Red lights blinked like tired eyes. A man gripped the steering wheel, jaw tight, shoulders raised. Every delay felt personal. Every slow car felt offensive. His mind raced faster than the road. Already late for tomorrow. Then rain began to fall. Soft at first, then steady. The sound against the roof calmed something. A rhythm older than impatience. He remembered a teaching from the Nikayas. Suffering grows when we argue with what is. The road is long. Fighting it only exhausts the heart. He loosened his hands. He let the car move as it moved. The rain did not hurry, yet it reached everywhere. By the time he arrived home, something inside had slowed. Not the world, but his resistance to it. That night, lying in bed, he felt the same lesson settle. You cannot shorten every road, but you can soften the journey. Story 4. The unsent message. Her phone glowed in the dark. A message written, rewritten, unsent. Words sharp with feeling, heavy with longing and regret. She held it like a stone in her chest. Send it, or erase it. Both choices felt painful. Neither felt peaceful. She remembered the Abhaya teaching. Speech should be true, kind, and timely. Not all truth needs expression, especially when hearts are tired. She placed the phone face down. The room breathed with her. Silence wrapped around the moment, gentler than any reply. Sleep arrived slowly, carrying away the words unspoken. Some messages heal best when released into quiet understanding. Story 5. The Garden at Dusk. An old man tended his small garden. Weeds returned, no matter how often he cleared them. Still, he came each evening, moving patiently, without complaint. A neighbor once asked why he bothered. The work never seemed finished. The old man smiled softly. "Neither is living," he said. He spoke of right effort. From the Eightfold Path: care without clinging, action without resentment. At dusk, he washed his hands. The garden rested until morning. So did his mind. That night, sleep came like fertile soil, quiet, dark, generous. Not everything must be completed to be enough. Story 6. The Heavy Backpack. She carried invisible weight everywhere. Past mistakes, imagined futures, old shame. Even rest felt like another task. One evening, she imagined setting it down, just for a moment. The relief surprised her. The Buddha spoke of letting go, not as loss, but as freedom from unnecessary burden. She slept lighter that night. The pack remained, but no longer felt fused to her spine. Rest taught her gently, "You may put it down, even if only until morning." Story 7. The Quiet Train Platform. A platform waited under pale lights. No announcements, no rush, just the sound of breathing and distance. A man stood there, thinking of choices made, paths taken, paths missed. Regret arrived like cold air. He remembered the Kalama teaching: do not torture yourself with doubt. Learn, then move forward, kindly. When the train arrived, he stepped on calmly. The past stayed on the platform, without argument. Sleep later mirrored that moment. You board the present, and let the rest wait behind. Story 8. The Mirror in the Hallway. She passed the mirror quickly each day. Tonight, she stopped. Lines showed where effort had lived. Instead of criticism, she offered silent kindness. The Karaniya Metta spirit moved gently. "May I be at ease," she thought. "May I rest." Sleep answered without words. Story 9. The Closed Notebook. A notebook lay unfinished on the desk. Plans half written, dreams half formed. He closed it gently. The Megha teaching surfaced softly. A restless mind cannot see clearly. Rest is not quitting. The notebook waited patiently. Sleep did the same. Story 10. The Candle Before Dawn. A single candle burned low. Night nearly complete. A woman watched the flame steady itself. No effort, no fear. She remembered the first teaching: suffering eases when grasping ends. As the candle dimmed, sleep arrived fully, and in the quiet, a final knowing remained: peace is already here, when we stop reaching for it. Story 11. The Empty Parking Lot. The parking lot was almost empty. Lines fading beneath yellow evening lights. A woman sat in her car, engine off, hands resting quietly on the steering wheel. She had arrived home, yet she was not ready to go inside. The day still clung to her shoulders. Tight emails, careful words, forced smiles. She watched a single leaf tumble across the pavement. No purpose, no hurry, just motion. Her chest softened at the sight, as if something unknotted on its own. She remembered a teaching from the Sutta Nikaya: feelings arise, feelings pass. They are guests, not owners. They visit, then leave when uninvited. Sitting there, She allowed the tiredness to be felt, not pushed away, not judged, just noticed. Like the cool air, like the dimming sky. After a while, she opened the door. Her feet touched the ground lightly. Home felt closer now, because she had arrived inside herself first. That night, sleep welcomed her easily. No struggle, no bargaining. Only a quiet truth remained. When you stop running, rest finds you. Story 12. The late dinner. The plate was simple. Rice, vegetables, warm steam rising slowly. A man sat alone at the table, eating later than he planned again. Work had stretched the hours thin. Hunger felt mixed with irritation. He ate quickly at first, as if racing an invisible clock. Then he paused. He noticed the sound of chewing, the warmth traveling downward, the body quietly receiving care. A teaching from the Majjhima Nikaya surfaced gently. Awareness can live in any act. Even eating can become rest. When attention is kind and complete. He slowed without forcing it. The meal became enough. So did the moment. Later, lying down, his mind followed the same pace. Nothing needed chasing. Sleep arrived like a satisfied guest, and a quiet thought lingered. You do not need more time. Only presence where you already are. Story 13. The folder of old photos. A folder opened on the computer screen. Faces from years ago smiled brightly, some moments joyful, others edged with regret. A woman scrolled slowly, heart tightening, then loosening. She wished she had known then what she understands now. The Jataka stories once spoke of this. Wisdom grows through many lives, many attempts, many lessons. Nothing ripens early by force. She closed the folder gently. The past settled into its place, not erased, not denied, but no longer heavy. Sleep later felt forgiving, as if time itself whispered softly, you learned what you could, when you were able. Story 14. The quiet stairwell. A stairwell echoed faintly with footsteps. Concrete walls, cool air, steady descent. A man walked down after a long shift, each step easing his back. No one spoke. No music played, just movement and breath. Simple and unadorned. He remembered the Satipatthana teaching. Walking is known as walking. Standing is known as standing. Nothing more is required. By the time he reached the ground floor, his thoughts had thinned. The body led the way home. That night, sleep followed the same steps. One breath at a time. Awareness became rest. Story 15. The unanswered question. A question lingered in her mind. Why did this happen? Why did it end this way? No answer ever felt complete. She carried it into the evening, then into bed. It rested beside her, persistent but tired. The Buddha once advised gentle redirection of thought, not wrestling, not suppression, turning the mind toward what soothes. When questioning only burns, she focused on her breath. The question softened, then faded like a distant sound. Sleep did not require understanding, only release, and the lesson stayed behind. Some answers come only after rest. Story 16. The morning alarm remembered. The alarm was silent now, yet his body remembered its urgency. Even at night, tension lingered in his chest. He placed a hand over his heart, breathing slowly, evenly. The Dhammacakkappavattana teaching echoed faintly. Balance eases suffering, neither indulgence nor strain. just the middle way. Even in rest, his breathing steadied. The alarm lost its power. Sleep reclaimed the body kindly. Story 17. The library window. A library stood quiet after closing. Lights dim. Shelves patient. A woman looked out a tall window. Rain tracing lines down the glass. She felt small and safe at once. Protected by silence. She recalled Indra's net. Each moment reflected in countless others. No worry existed alone. No kindness was wasted. Later, in bed, the same feeling returned. You are held, even when you cannot see how. Story 18. The balanced stone. By the river bank, a stone stood balanced on another. A man noticed it while walking slowly. No sign explained its presence. It existed briefly, then would fall. The Abhidharma taught impermanence quietly. Nothing needs to last to be meaningful. That thought followed him home. Sleep came without clinging. The beauty had already been enough. Story 19. The soft apology. She practiced an apology in her mind. Different words. Different tones. None felt perfect. The Upali teaching reminded her gently. Intention matters more than performance. Sincerity speaks without polish. She slept before finishing the sentence, trusting truth to find its time. Story 20. The last light in the house. One light remained on downstairs. A man turned it off slowly. Darkness filled the room without fear. The Mahasatipatthana teaching rested quietly within, knowing the body at rest, knowing the mind at peace. As he lay down, a final understanding settled softly. Night does not take anything away. It simply gives you back to yourself. Story 21. The window left open. The night air drifted gently through the open window, cool against the warmth of the room. A man lay still, listening to distant sounds. Cars passing far away. A dog settling into sleep. He had opened the window without thinking. Now he wondered if he should close it. The air felt uncertain, unpredictable, like the thoughts moving quietly through his mind. He had spent years trying to control everything. Schedules, outcomes, conversations, impressions. Even rest had become another task. Something to achieve instead of receive. A memory surfaced from the Anguttara Nikaya. Peace grows when we stop arranging the world, not through carelessness, but through trust in what naturally unfolds. He let the window remain open. The room breathed with the night. His chest followed, rising and falling without instruction. Thoughts still appeared, but they no longer demanded attention. They passed like the breeze, touching lightly, then moving on. Sleep arrived quietly, as if invited by the openness, and a gentle knowing stayed with him. You do not need to close every window to feel safe. Story 22. The empty chair. An empty chair sat across the room. Wooden. Simple. Quietly waiting. A woman noticed it as she prepared for bed. Its presence unexpectedly heavy. Someone once sat there often. Conversations shared. Laughter exchanged. Then time moved forward. As it always does. She felt the familiar ache of absence. The mind replayed what could have been said. Regret visited softly, like an old acquaintance at night. She remembered a teaching from the Sigalovada Sutta. Care for relationships while they are near, and release them gently when they are not. Holding too tightly hurts both heart and memory. She placed a folded blanket on the chair, not to replace anyone, but to acknowledge warmth that had been. Lying down, the ache softened, Loss did not disappear, but it no longer pressed so hard. Sleep carried her kindly, and in its quiet voice, a truth whispered, "Love does not vanish when presence changes." Story 23. The unfinished report. The report waited on the desk. Cursor blinking patiently at the bottom of the page. A man stared at it for a long time, feeling the familiar weight of not enough. He had worked hard, yet the work felt incomplete. Perfection hovered just out of reach. As it often did, he remembered the Vitakasantana teaching: when thoughts become unskillful, redirect them gently. As one would guide a tired child home, he saved the file and shut the laptop. The report stayed unfinished, but his body finally rested. Later, sleep taught him softly, completion is not always the same as peace. Sometimes stopping is the wiser act. Story 24. The quiet sink. Warm water filled the sink slowly. A woman washed a single cup, watching soap bubbles gather and fade. The house was silent behind her. Her day had been loud inside. Meetings, opinions, unspoken tension. Even now, her thoughts argued, rehearsing what should have gone differently. She focused on the feel of water, the smooth curve of porcelain, a practice as old as mindfulness itself. The Buddha once spoke of washing the mind, as one washes the body, through simple, attentive acts. By the time the cup was dry, the noise had softened. Nothing changed outwardly, yet something felt clean. Sleep later flowed like water, no effort required, and the sink, left empty, seemed to smile quietly in the dark. Story 25. The slow elevator. The elevator moved downward at its own pace, numbers glowing softly above the door. A man stood alone inside, briefcase resting at his feet. He felt impatience rise, then surprise at noticing it. Even now, he wanted to arrive, without knowing where rest truly lived. A teaching from the Majjhima Nikaya surfaced. Hurry belongs to the mind, not to the moment. The elevator stopped. Doors opened. Nothing had been lost by waiting. That night, sleep arrived the same way, unrushed, inevitable, teaching him gently, you always arrive when you stop pushing. Story 26. The faded receipt. A receipt fell from his wallet onto the floor, old, creased, nearly unreadable. He picked it up, remembering a time of financial worry. The fear returned briefly, tight and familiar. Then he noticed where he stood now, safe enough, breathing steadily. The Kuakama Vibhanga teaching echoed quietly. Causes unfold over time. Nothing is fixed forever. He let the receipt go. Sleep later echoed the same message. This moment is not that moment. Story 27. The lamp by the bed. A small lamp glowed beside the bed. Soft light, warm and steady. A woman reached to turn it off, then paused. She watched the light for a moment, how it asked for nothing, yet offered presence. She remembered the Karaniya metta spirit. Gentleness begins within. Turning off the lamp, darkness felt friendly. Sleep settled like a kind companion. Story 28. The old sweater. An old sweater hung in the closet, too worn to wear outside. He pulled it on anyway, feeling its familiar weight. It reminded him of simpler days. Not better, just quieter. The Abhidhamma spoke of memory as passing mental states. Warm, then gone. Sleep came wrapped in that feeling. Comfort without clinging. Story 29. The night rain. Rain tapped softly on the roof. Steady, patient, unbothered. A woman listened from her bed, each drop a small release. The Mahakama Vibhanga teaching whispered, "Not all causes are visible. Still, life continues unfolding." Her worries dissolved into sound. Sleep followed the rain's rhythm. Story 30. The final stretch. He stretched once before lying down. Arms overhead. Breath deep. The body signaled readiness. Long before the mind agreed, he remembered a simple teaching. The body knows how to rest. Trust it. As sleep arrived, a gentle dialogue unfolded inside. Nothing more is required tonight. Story 31. The quiet checkout line. The grocery store was nearly empty. Late enough that the lights felt softer. A man stood in the checkout line, one basket resting lightly against his leg. The cashier moved slowly, unhurried. Each item passed with a gentle beep. At first, impatience stirred in his chest. A habit learned from crowded days. He noticed his breathing tighten. Then he noticed the noticing. The Sutta Nikaya once spoke this way: awareness begins when we stop rushing past ourselves. He looked around. A child asleep in a cart nearby. A clerk humming quietly to herself. Nothing here was asking for speed. His shoulders dropped without instruction. The basket felt lighter. Waiting no longer felt like delay, but like permission to arrive fully. Walking home. The night seemed calmer. Sleep later followed that same pace. And the lesson lingered softly. Peace appears when nothing is being pushed. Story 32. The folded laundry. Clean laundry waited on the couch. Warm from the dryer. Softly scented. A woman folded each piece slowly, smoothing wrinkles with open hands. Her mind replayed a tense conversation. Words said, words withheld. The feeling tugged at her chest, asking again for resolution. She folded another shirt, then another. The Buddha once taught simple attention, doing one thing, knowing one thing. As fabric stacked neatly, her thoughts began to stack as well, not disappearing, just becoming orderly and quiet. When the last towel was folded, the conversation felt farther away, not solved, but no longer sharp. In bed, her breathing echoed the same rhythm. Fold, release, fold, release. Sleep completed what attention had begun, and a quiet truth rested beside her. Care given gently always returns as rest. Story 33. The morning coffee remembered. The smell of coffee lingered faintly, even though night had already arrived. A man remembered the morning rush. Cup held tightly, thoughts already racing ahead. Now the house was silent. The cup was long empty. Only the memory remained, softened by distance. The Anguttara Nikaya spoke of craving this way. Wanting pulls the mind forward. Contentment lets it settle where it stands. He smiled at the thought. Morning urgency felt far away. Night asked for nothing. As sleep came, he understood without words. Each moment tastes best when not swallowed in a hurry. Story 34. The closed office door. The office door closed with a soft click. Lights dimmed automatically behind him. A woman paused in the hallway, hand still resting on the handle. Work thoughts tried to follow. Emails. Tomorrow's meetings. Unfinished plans. They pressed against the door in her mind, asking to come along. She remembered a teaching from the Majjhima Nikaya. Boundaries protect clarity. Even the mind needs closing hours. She let her hand fall. The door stayed shut. Her steps toward the elevator felt lighter. Later, in bed, The same boundary held. Thoughts knocked, but did not enter. Sleep welcomed her gently, and a simple wisdom stayed. You may leave some rooms for morning. Story 35. The quiet streetlight. A streetlight flickered softly outside the window, its glow steady, unbothered by darkness. A man watched it for a while, breathing slow, eyes half closed. His mind had been busy with comparisons, others' success, others' timelines. He felt behind, though no race had been announced. The Dhammapada once offered this reminder: envy burns the hand that holds it. Release cools the heart. He let the comparisons drift away. The streetlight did not compete with the moon. It simply shone where it stood. Sleep arrived like that light, quiet, sufficient, teaching him gently, your place is enough, just as it is. Story 36. The old calendar. An old calendar lay in a drawer, months crossed out in thick ink. A woman flipped through it slowly, remembering plans that never happened. Disappointment stirred, then softened. Life had moved differently than expected. Not better, not worse, just different. The Meghiya Sutta spoke of restless reflection. Looking back without kindness feeds sorrow. Looking back gently allows learning. She closed the calendar and returned it. The past felt complete again. Night welcomed her with ease, and sleep carried a quiet message. What passed has already taught you enough. Story 37. The bus stop bench. A bench waited under dim lights. A man sat alone, coat pulled close. The bus was late, yet the night felt patient. He noticed his breath fogging the air, each cloud appearing, then fading. The Satipatthana teaching echoed softly. Observe without chasing. Waiting became simple. The bench supported him fully. Nothing else was required. When sleep came later, it felt like that bench, always ready to hold you when you finally sit down. Story 38. The quiet apology. A memory surfaced without warning. A harsh word spoken long ago. The shame felt familiar, heavy but tired. She remembered the Abhaya Sutta's gentle tone. Right speech includes knowing when silence heals. Forgiveness sometimes begins inwardly. She offered herself a quiet apology. No audience, no drama, just understanding. Sleep followed like a nod of acceptance, teaching her softly, kindness does not need witnesses. Story 39. The cooling tea. A mug of tea cooled on the table, steam rising slower with each breath. A man watched it patiently, hands resting in his lap. He had spent years reheating worries, returning to them again and again. Tonight, he let one cool completely. The Vitakasantana teaching surfaced gently. Unhelpful thoughts lose power when unattended. By the time the tea cooled, so had his mind. Sleep arrived without effort, and the lesson remained. Not every thought needs reheating. Story 40. The last sound of the day. The house settled into silence. A refrigerator hum, then stillness. A woman lay quietly, listening. She remembered the Mahasatipatthana teaching, knowing silence as silence, knowing rest as rest. As the last sound faded, sleep unfolded naturally, and a final whisper stayed behind. When nothing calls for you, rest answers. Story 41. The porch light at midnight. The porch light stayed on long after midnight, casting a soft circle on the wooden floor. A man sat just inside the door, listening to insects hum beyond the screen. The day had been heavy with decisions. Small choices piled into quiet exhaustion. Even now, His mind reviewed them, as if one more pass might bring peace. He watched the porch light attract a moth. It circled patiently, without frustration, not demanding answers, only moving as it was moved. He remembered a gentle teaching from the Dhammapada. The mind becomes what it repeatedly returns to. Struggle sharpens struggle. Gentleness invites rest. He leaned back and breathed slowly. The porch light did not judge the moth. It simply shone. That was enough. As sleep came later, the light faded from thought, and a quiet wisdom remained. You may stop circling now. Story 42. The half-written letter. A letter lay unfinished on the table. Ink dried halfway through a sentence. A woman touched the page lightly, then folded it closed. The words were honest, but her heart felt tired. She wondered if clarity required completion, or if rest could come first. The Abhaya Sutta once spoke of timing. Even truth needs the right moment. Silence can be kind, when spoken words would bruise. She placed the letter in a drawer. The room felt calmer immediately. Not everything needs a conclusion tonight. In bed, her breathing slowed. The letter slept too, and a gentle truth whispered, "Wisdom knows when to wait." Story 43. The empty playground. Moonlight fell across an empty playground. Swings moved slightly in the breeze. A man paused as he walked past, listening to the quiet creak. He remembered being young, when effort felt like play. Now even rest carried expectation, as if he had forgotten how to stop. The Jataka stories often spoke of balance. Too much striving bends the spirit. Too much avoiding dulls it. The middle path breathes easily. He watched the swings slow, naturally. No hand pushed them still. They simply settled. Later, sleep mirrored that motion. No force, no command, and a soft teaching stayed. Rest happens when effort steps aside. Story 44. The open book. A book lay open on the nightstand. One page half read, the other waiting patiently. A woman traced a sentence with her eyes. Meaning drifted in and out. Her body asked for rest. Long before her mind agreed, she remembered the Majjhima Nikaya's gentle tone. Knowing when to stop is also wisdom. Learning does not disappear in sleep. It deepens quietly. She closed the book without regret. The room softened immediately. Sleep arrived like a trusted teacher, and the lesson settled warmly. Understanding ripens best in rest. Story 45. The cooling engine. The car engine ticked softly as it cooled. A man sat inside. Door open. Night air brushing his face. The drive home had been long. Traffic thick with impatience. His shoulders still held the road, even though the journey had ended. The Sayutta Nikaya spoke of after effects. Motion continues briefly after stopping. Knowing this brings kindness, not frustration. He waited as the engine cooled. He waited as his body did the same. Eventually, silence arrived. Sleep later echoed that lesson. You do not need to stop instantly. You only need to stop gently. Story 46. The unwatered plant. A plant drooped slightly on the windowsill. Leaves pale but patient. A woman noticed it before bed. Feeling a small pang of guilt, she had meant to care for everything. Work, family, herself. Something was always left undone. The Kua Kama Vibhanga teaching surfaced softly. Conditions shape outcomes. Blame does not nourish growth. She watered the plant slowly. Not too much. Not rushed. Then she let it be. Sleep came with the same spirit. Care given, then trust. Story 47. The quiet radio. A radio played softly in another apartment. Music muffled through the wall. A man listened from his bed. Feeling less alone, he had carried loneliness all day, hidden beneath activity. Now it surfaced gently, asking only to be felt. The Karaniya metta teaching offered warmth. May all beings feel held, including this quiet heart. The radio clicked off eventually. Silence remained friendly. Sleep answered with closeness, and the teaching lingered. Connection does not always need words. Story 48. The clean sink. The kitchen sink shone faintly under dim light. No dishes waited. A woman stood there briefly, hands resting on the counter. The small order felt soothing. Not perfection, just enough. The Abhidhamma spoke of mental clarity. Order outside can invite order within, when done without strain. She turned off the light. Sleep followed easily. Enough had been done. Story 49. The last email. The last email of the day sat unsent. A man reread it slowly, then closed the laptop. The Sigalovada Sutta once advised balance. Duty includes knowing when to stop. Rest honors responsibility. He left the email for morning. Sleep arrived promptly, trusting that clarity would return. Story 50. The quiet affirmation. Darkness settled fully around the room. A woman lay still, breathing evenly. No thoughts demanded attention. She remembered a simple teaching. You are already enough. No improvement required tonight. Sleep deepened with that knowing, and a final whisper remained. Rest is not earned. It is given freely. Story 51. The late-night dishwasher. The dishwasher hummed softly in the dark kitchen. A steady sound, almost like breathing. A man leaned against the counter, listening without needing to do anything. The day had asked a great deal from him. Decisions layered on decisions. Even now, his thoughts wanted to review, as if something important might be missed. He watched the small light on the machine. On, then off, then on again. Reliable, patient, unconcerned with opinion. A teaching from the Sayutta Nikaya surfaced gently. Things happen through causes and conditions, not through worry, not through constant checking. He realized the dishes were already being cleaned. No supervision required. Trust was enough. Later, in bed, his mind followed that lesson. Thoughts tried to stir, but he let them wash themselves. Sleep arrived in quiet cycles. Rinse, release, rest, and a calm knowing remained. Much is already being taken care of. Story 52. The long shadow. A streetlight cast a long shadow across the sidewalk. A woman walked slowly beside it, watching the shadow stretch and shrink, changing without effort. Her mind had been busy with self-judgment. Mistakes replayed with sharp clarity. She felt larger in her failures, smaller in her kindness. The Dhammapada once spoke of perception. We become what we repeatedly hold in mind. Harsh attention creates harsh shapes. She softened her gaze. The shadow lost its power. It was only light meeting form. That night, lying quietly, she allowed herself the same gentleness. Thoughts grew less severe. Sleep arrived like a forgiving dark, and the teaching whispered, "You are more than your shadow." Story 53. The quiet intersection. The traffic light turned red. A car stopped at an empty intersection. A man waited alone, engine idling softly. No other cars approached. No urgency pressed in, yet habit urged him to hurry, to wish the light away. He noticed the urge and smiled faintly. The Majjhima Nikaya spoke of patience. Waiting does not steal time. It reveals it. He rested his hands on his lap. The red light glowed steadily. Nothing was wrong. Later, in bed, he remembered that stillness. Sleep came easily, and the lesson remained. Pauses are part of the path. Story 54. The spare room. The spare room stood quiet. Bed neatly made. Lamp untouched. A woman stood in the doorway, feeling both space and absence. Life had changed its shape. People had moved on. The room held echoes, but no demands. She recalled a teaching from the Jataka tales. Houses change. Roles change. Clinging to old forms brings sorrow. Honoring change brings peace. She closed the door gently, not in rejection, but in acceptance. That night, sleep filled the open space inside her. Nothing needed replacing, and a soft truth stayed. Emptiness can be kind. Story 55. The cooling pavement. Rain had passed earlier. The pavement still held a faint shine. A man walked slowly, shoes tapping softly against damp ground. The air felt clean. His thoughts, less so. Concerns about money circled quietly. Persistent but tired, the Mahakamavi teaching came to him. Life unfolds through many threads. No single worry controls the whole weave. He breathed in the cool air. The pavement cooled beneath the night. So did his fear. Sleep later reflected that easing. You do not need to solve everything now. Rest is also preparation. Story 56. The drawer of cables. A drawer open to tangled cables. Chargers. Cords. Old devices. A woman sorted them slowly, untangling without urgency. Each knot loosened with patience. Pulling harder only tightened it. She noticed how familiar this felt. The Buddha once spoke of mental knots. They loosen through gentleness, not force. She closed the drawer neatly. Her shoulders dropped. In bed, her thoughts felt less tangled. Sleep completed the work, and the teaching lingered. Soft hands untied deep knots. Story 57. The quiet thank you. A man whispered thank you into the dark. Not to anyone specific, just to the moment, for finally being quiet. The Abhidhamma spoke of gratitude as a mental tone. It softens what it touches. His breath deepened naturally. Sleep answered the whisper. Gratitude needs no reply. Story 58. The mourning clothes laid out. Clothes were laid out for mourning. Simple, comfortable, ready. A woman did this slowly, as if caring for her future self. The Sigalavada Sutta spoke of responsibility with kindness. Care given now reduces strain later. She turned off the light. Sleep felt supported, and the lesson stayed. Gentle preparation is an act of love. Story 59. The last dish towel. The last dish towel hung neatly to dry. The kitchen rested. A man stood quietly, hands warm. Work done. Nothing remarkable had happened, and that felt perfect. The Satipatthana teaching echoed softly, knowing completion as completion. Sleep arrived without ceremony, and a calm understanding remained. Ordinary moments carry deep rest. Story 60. The quiet agreement. A woman lay still, eyes closed. Her mind finally slowed. She made a quiet agreement with herself. Tonight, nothing else is required. No fixing, no planning. The Dhammacakkappavattana teaching rested gently within. Release brings ease. Sleep deepened at once, and the final truth whispered, "Let this be enough." Story 61. The quiet hallway at night. The hallway was dim, lit only by a small night lamp near the floor. A man walked slowly toward his bedroom, bare feet touching cool wood with each step. The house had settled for the night. No voices, no screens, no demands. Yet his mind still carried the day. Meetings layered over worries, worries layered over doubt. He paused halfway down the hall, not because he was tired, but because he finally noticed the silence. It felt wide and gentle, like open arms. He remembered a teaching from the Sutta Nikaya. When conditions grow quiet, the mind reveals itself, not as a problem to solve, but as a space to rest within. He stood there, breathing, feeling the weight of his body supported by the floor. The walls asked nothing from him. The night offered no questions. Thoughts still appeared, but they moved more slowly now. Each one arrived, bowed, and left, as if aware it was no longer needed. He continued walking, but softer than before. The bedroom door opened without sound. The bed waited patiently, already prepared. As he lay down, the hallway faded from thought, yet its quiet remained inside him. A reminder carried inward. Sleep came like a dimming lamp, gradual, kind, unavoidable, and just before drifting away, a calm knowing settled gently. You do not have to carry the whole house with you. You may set the day down, room by room, until only rest remains. Story 62. The window with no view. The window faced another building, bricks close and uninteresting. A woman stood there briefly, curtain pulled halfway back. During the day, she barely noticed it. At night, it felt symbolic somehow. No wide horizon, no distant stars to inspire hope. Her thoughts followed that feeling. Life felt boxed in by obligation, work, family, responsibility, very little space to breathe. She remembered a teaching from the Majjhima Nikaya. Freedom does not depend on scenery. The widest space lives within awareness. She let the curtain fall closed. The room became simpler. Without the view, there was less to compare herself against. She lay down and focused on breath, in and out, slow and steady. With each breath, the walls seemed less confining. The mind softened its edges. Thoughts loosened their grip. A quiet openness appeared, unexpected and welcoming. Sleep arrived gently, as if it had been waiting for permission. And in the darkness, a quiet truth rested beside her. You do not need a wide view to feel free. Stillness itself is vast enough. Story 63. The office badge set down. The badge slipped from his hand onto the table. Plastic against wood. A soft sound. A man watched it settle, as if seeing it for the first time. That badge had opened doors all day, granted access, demanded performance. Even now, it felt heavy, as though it still expected something from him. He remembered a teaching from the Dhammapada. Identity clung to creates suffering. Roles are worn, not lived inside forever. He slid the badge into a drawer. The click of closure felt final, not dramatic, just complete. Without the badge nearby, his shoulders dropped. His breathing slowed naturally. The room felt more personal again. In bed, he noticed how often he carried labels into sleep. Worker, provider, problem solver. Tonight, none were required. Sleep came easily, free of titles and expectations. and a gentle reminder echoed softly. You are more than what opens doors. Rest needs no identification. Story 64. The quiet grocery receipt. A grocery receipt lay on the counter. Longer than expected. A woman glanced at the total, feeling a familiar tightening in her chest. Money worries visited late at night. They waited until everything else was quiet. Numbers replayed themselves, asking questions with no easy answers. She picked up the receipt slowly, not to judge it, but to feel the paper between her fingers. Thin, ordinary, harmless. A teaching from the Anguttara Nikaya came gently. Worry multiplies imagined futures. Presence returns you to what is real. She folded the receipt and placed it aside. Tonight did not require solving tomorrow. Food had been bought. The body had been fed. Lying down, she felt gratitude replace calculation. Enough for now was truly enough. Sleep followed that understanding, and a soft lesson stayed. Planning has its time. Rest has its own wisdom. Story 65. The unanswered phone. The phone lay silent beside the bed. No notifications. No vibration. A man watched the dark screen, half expecting it to light up. There were conversations he feared, calls he both wanted and avoided. Silence felt uneasy at first, like waiting for something to go wrong. He remembered a teaching from the Abhaya Sutta. Speech is powerful, but silence can be protective. He turned the phone face down. The room felt calmer immediately. Nothing demanded response. Nothing was missing. Sleep arrived without interruption, and the silence taught him gently. Not every moment needs connection. Some are meant for rest. Story 66. The slow-breathing cat. A cat lay curled at the foot of the bed, its breathing slow and steady. A woman watched the rise and fall, feeling her own breath follow. The day had been full of caring for others, needs layered on needs. She wondered when she had learned to forget herself so easily. The cat shifted slightly, then returned to stillness. No apology, no explanation, just rest. The Karaniya Metta teaching stirred softly. May all beings be at ease, including this tired heart. She placed a hand on her chest. Breathing matched the cat's rhythm. Sleep came naturally, and a quiet message remained. You are allowed to rest, simply because you are alive. Story 67. The darkened screen. The television screen went black. Its reflection faded from the room. A man sat quietly for a moment, not reaching for anything else. He noticed how much noise he had consumed. Opinions, arguments, endless urgency. Even relaxation had felt loud. A teaching from the Satipatthana Sutta appeared gently. Knowing when stimulation ends is also mindfulness. The silence felt strange, then comforting. His mind slowly mirrored the room. In bed, thoughts arrived less aggressively. Sleep followed like a natural conclusion, and the lesson rested quietly. Peace begins when input ends. Story 68. The slightly open door. The bedroom door stayed slightly open. A thin line of hallway light spilled in. A woman lay watching it, feeling unexpectedly safe. She had spent years needing control. Closed doors, locked plans, firm decisions. Yet tonight, the small opening felt kind. She remembered a teaching from the Meghiya Sutta. Clinging to certainty exhausts the mind. Allowing openness invites ease. She did not close the door. She did not open it further. She let it be. Sleep came through that opening, soft and unannounced, and a calm understanding settled. You do not need everything sealed shut to rest. Story 69. The warm socks. Warm socks covered his feet. Thick and comforting. A small kindness offered to himself. After a long, demanding day, he realized how rarely he noticed comfort. So focused on endurance, he often skipped gentleness altogether. The Abhidhamma spoke of feeling tones. Pleasant sensations can soothe the mind. When received without grasping, he stretched his toes slightly, then relaxed. Sleep arrived with surprising ease, and a simple truth remained. Small comforts matter. Story 70. The quiet promise. The room was fully dark now. Breathing slow, body heavy. A woman rested on the edge of sleep. Aware but not alert, she made a quiet promise to herself. Tomorrow will come when it comes. Tonight belongs to rest. The Dhammacakkappavattana teaching echoed faintly. Letting go turns the wheel gently. Sleep deepened at once, and the final whisper stayed. You may rest now. Story 71. The quiet mailbox. The mailbox stood at the end of the driveway. Metal cool beneath the night air. A man walked toward it slowly, even though he already knew it was empty. He had checked it earlier that day. Still, something pulled him outside. Perhaps habit. Perhaps the wish for good news arriving late. The street was quiet. Porch lights dimmed. Windows dark. The world felt paused, as if everyone had agreed to rest together. He opened the mailbox gently. No letters waited. No bills. No promises. No demands. Just empty space. At first, disappointment appeared. Then relief followed close behind. Nothing new to handle tonight. Nothing else asking for his attention. A teaching from the Sayutta Nikaya surfaced softly. Peace is not found in receiving, but in releasing expectation. He closed the mailbox and stood still. The air felt cooler now, cleaner somehow. The day's worries loosened their hold. Walking back inside, his steps felt lighter. He realized how often he waited for something external to allow him rest. In bed, the same understanding remained. No message was needed. No answer required. Sleep arrived gently, like a letter already read long ago, and the quiet teaching stayed beside him. You do not need news to be at peace. Sometimes, emptiness is the gift. Story 72. The soft lamp in the corner. A small lamp glowed in the corner of the room, casting warm light across the wall. A woman sat on the edge of the bed, hands folded loosely in her lap. She had turned the lamp on out of habit. Bright lights felt too harsh tonight. This one felt kind, as if it understood her mood. The day had been filled with opinions, meetings, messages, expectations. Her mind replayed them all, still trying to keep everyone satisfied. She watched the lamp's steady glow. It did not flicker or apologize. It simply shone, without adjusting itself for anyone. The Dhammapada once spoke of steadiness. A calm mind does not bend to every wind. She breathed slowly. The lamp did not need approval. Perhaps she did not either. Turning it off, darkness felt gentle rather than abrupt. The room did not disappear. It simply rested. Sleep arrived with that same feeling, not forced, not rushed, and a soft truth remained. You do not need to shine brightly to be enough. A steady presence is already complete. Story 73. The quiet recycling bin. Glass clinked softly as bottles settled inside the bin. A man stood in the kitchen doorway, holding the last empty jar, listening to the sound fade. The task was simple. Finished now. Yet he lingered, feeling the calm that followed completion. He had spent the day fixing problems, responding, correcting, adjusting. Even now, his mind searched for something else to manage. He placed the jar inside and closed the lid. The quiet afterward felt meaningful. No more sorting. Nothing left undone here. The Satipatthana teaching arose gently. Knowing when an action ends is part of mindfulness. He washed his hands slowly. Water ran warm over his skin. The body understood what the mind resisted. In bed, that same quiet returned. No loose ends tugged at him. Sleep arrived without argument, and the lesson settled kindly. Completion brings rest, when you allow yourself to feel it. Story 74. The hall clock. A clock ticked softly in the hallway. Each second measured but unhurried. A woman listened from her bed, surprised by how soothing it felt. During the day, time had pressed hard. Deadlines looming. Schedules tight. Each minute felt expensive, as if it might run out. Now the clock asked nothing. It moved forward without stress. 1 second followed another. Calmly, patiently, she remembered a teaching from the Anguttara Nikaya. Time flows on its own. Suffering comes from chasing it. Her breath began to match the ticking. Slow, even, reliable. Thoughts lost their urgency. Tomorrow felt far away. Only this moment remained, complete in itself. Sleep arrived gently, carried on measured seconds, and the quiet message stayed. You do not need to hurry time. It knows how to move. Story 75. The folded blanket. A blanket lay folded neatly at the foot of the bed. A man reached down and unfolded it slowly, feeling its weight spread evenly across him. The day had left him exposed somehow. Too many conversations, too much effort spent explaining himself. The blanket felt grounding, simple, honest. It did not ask who he was or why. The Karaniya Metta teaching whispered softly, "May you feel safe. May you feel held." He adjusted the blanket once, then let his hands rest. The body settled before the mind noticed. Sleep followed naturally, wrapped in quiet warmth, and a gentle truth remained. Comfort is not weakness. It is how the nervous system remembers peace. Story 76. The clean bathroom mirror. The bathroom mirror reflected soft shadows. No harsh light. No sharp edges. A woman brushed her teeth slowly, watching her own eyes with kindness. She was used to criticism, not from others, but from herself. Tonight felt different. She noticed tiredness there, but also resilience. A long day survived. Another completed. The Abhaya Sutta spoke of right intention. Speech directed inward matters deeply. She rinsed the sink and turned off the light. The mirror disappeared into darkness. Judgment faded with it. In bed, her face felt relaxed. Sleep arrived without resistance, and the lesson whispered softly, "Kindness begins with how you look at yourself." Story 77. The slightly cool pillow. The pillow felt cool against his cheek, a small contrast to the warmth of his body. A man shifted once, then grew still. The day had been mentally crowded. Too many tabs open in his mind. Now, the coolness brought him back, right into sensation. The Abhidhamma spoke of grounding. Feeling brings the mind home. He focused on the simple contact. Cool fabric, steady breath. Nothing else mattered. Sleep followed quickly. Not dramatic, just natural. And a quiet teaching remained. Return to the body, and the mind will follow. Story 78. The quiet apology revisited, a memory returned gently, no longer sharp. A misunderstanding from years ago, once heavy with shame. A woman noticed how distant it felt now. Time had softened its edges. Growth had changed her response. The Upali Sutta came quietly to mind. Ethical clarity develops over time. Learning continues long after mistakes. She offered herself compassion, not as permission, but as understanding. Sleep arrived like forgiveness, and the soft lesson stayed. You are not who you once were. Let that be enough. Story 79. The night breeze through curtains. Curtains moved gently with the night breeze. A man watched their slow rhythm. Light and shadow dancing together. He had spent years resisting uncertainty, wanting life pinned down, predictable. Yet this movement felt peaceful. The Megillah Sutta spoke of restlessness. It calms when the mind allows flow. He did not adjust the curtains. He let them move as they wished. The room felt alive but safe. Sleep came riding that motion, and a quiet truth remained. You do not need to control the air to breathe. Story 80. The last breath before sleep. The room held complete stillness. Breathing slow, deep, unforced. A woman hovered at the edge of sleep, aware but not thinking. The day felt far away now. Its concerns softened into memory. Only the present breath remained, arriving and leaving on its own. She remembered a simple Buddhist truth. This breath is enough. This moment is complete. As sleep fully arrived, a final whisper settled gently. Nothing more is needed. You may rest now. The stories have finished their walking. They sit beside you now. Quietly. Nothing more is being asked of you. Notice how the room feels softer. Shadows rest where they belong. Even the air seems slower, kinder. Your body already knows what to do. Muscles loosen without effort. The breath settles into its own rhythm. There is no need to hold the day anymore. You carried it as best you could. Now it can rest outside the door. Thoughts may still pass by. Let them drift like clouds at dusk. You do not need to follow them. Each breath comes, then goes. Nothing is missing in between. Nothing needs to be improved. If you notice a small tension somewhere, greet it gently, without fixing. Often, being seen is enough. The mind grows quieter this way, not forced into silence, simply allowed to slow down. You might feel heavier now, or lighter. Either way is perfectly fine. Sleep is not something you must achieve. It arrives when the body feels safe. And right now, you are safe. The night is doing its work. The world has dimmed its noise. Even time seems less important. Let yourself sink a little deeper. Into the bed. Into the breath. There is nothing left to prepare. No future moment to solve. This one is enough. If a gentle voice were beside you, it would say nothing urgent, only something kind. You have done enough today. In quiet, you do not need to be anything else. Is round. The space between breaths widens. Awareness softens at the edges. Sleep approaches like a familiar friend. You do not have to greet it. It knows where to find you. Let the stories fade into warmth. Let the teachings dissolve into comfort. What remains is simple being, breathing, resting, letting go. And as you drift further now, remember this quiet truth. Spoken without words, you are allowed to rest.